Good morning, Internet. I'm Ryan Ingram, and this is the Friday morning live stream. And it's live from a crooked camera. Let's see if I can fix that real quick. Probably not. There we go. Close enough. Awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get this thing started. This is going to be a very short one today. So it is closing day for us. So yesterday we closed on a big refinance, and we refinanced 44 properties successfully, and we are in the process of now purchasing many of the 35 properties we currently have under contract. So today is going to be a busy one as far as getting these properties closed on, getting the funds, to where they belong, to the sellers, and to the title company, from the title company, keeping track of all that, and getting these properties onboarded appropriately. So sending out the welcome letters, getting everybody into the system appropriately, and the key management. Key management is tricky. It takes up a lot of time, and always seems to be something that I don't do well. So I'm going to try to focus on that today. In the meantime, we talked about this briefly last week, and that is the Ingram rental calculator being available on Android. So it is now officially live on the Google Play Store. I'm very excited about that. And of course, it's been live on Apple for a few weeks now, so that's really exciting. I posted the link to the Google Play Store in the comments. So if you have an Android, a phone that's not an Apple, feel free to download that and use it and save some things locally. It's not invasive at all. It's a very laid back app. There's no sign up. There's no questions that you have to answer. We collect no data. It's just truly for you and your benefit. There aren't really even ads on there. At the bottom of the screen, there are like little banners, but it's all stuff related to me. So, yeah, very, very laid back, non-invasive app. And if you have the Apple Store, then here's the link to that. All right. If you have any questions, go ahead and post those in the chat. As always, there's a disclaimer. There we go. This disclaimer is that I really don't know what I'm talking about. So always seek professional advice before you take action on anything. I actually just got an invoice from our attorney because I seek professional counsel as well. They are not cheap. Boy, did they keep track of their time very well. 0.15 minimum time they spend on anything. 0.15 hours. All right, let's see here. I guess before, I know I harped on this last week, but it's been top of mind all week. So I guess before people really get on here and ask some questions, I want to go on a little bit of a rant about, perceived limitations and expectations. So I was in a conversation with one of my friends who is now our project manager. And, he just left law enforcement. I left law enforcement about 4.5 years ago. And we were having lunch the other day, and he went over some of his 5-year goals with me that he made, I think, 1.5 years, maybe 2 years ago. And that is that, the main one on there that was real estate related was that he wanted to have one duplex. And at the time, obviously it seemed like a massive goal, right? And, similarly, if I look back on the goals that I had when I was in law enforcement, my only goal was to be a millionaire by retirement. So I used to spend, I watched every dollar that I made, which is great principle. But, I thought it was the biggest goal that I could possibly set for myself was to achieve a net worth of $1 million by the time that I retired. And it's been very surreal. We've gotten really lucky in a lot of ways. A lot of people have given us their time, imparted a lot of wisdom to us. And, my brother and I really just said, hey, let's see how far we can push ourselves, how far we can stretch ourselves. And this past, yesterday, my brother and I closed the refinance of 44 properties, which was right about a $3 million loan. The total overall value of the 44 properties that we refinanced was 4.15 million. And again, just 4.5 years ago, I was in law enforcement and I made, I think, like $44,000 a year. So if you told me then that I would be where I am now and I would have just signed that, I wouldn't have believed it when I was on patrol, when I was in law enforcement. And it's not, I can attribute it to nothing other than kind of feverishly being a sponge to all things wisdom. You guys know my story of I just started reading like one book per shift until I learned how to make more money. And my only reason and intentions for that is that it was really important to my wife and I that she be a stay-at-home mom. And on the $44,000 a year in North Carolina, I just couldn't make that happen. So, as far as lessons learned during that, I would say the only thing that I think we have done that I don't believe many others do is just the level of discipline and kind of persistency we've had. We have turned down a lot of opportunities that on face value seem to be a lot cooler and a lot more snazzy than anything it is that we do. But in that, it's inherently risky. Now, if it works, it would be much larger financially than anything that we have done. And I guess over the 4 years now that we've been kind of keeping our nose to the ground, staying focused on the single family space, doing exactly what we have done, we've seen a lot of really big ideas come and go without any of them coming to fruition. Now, a lot of these projects are much larger, but at the same time, and they're going to take, a lot longer to come to fruition if they do, to be fair. But at the same time, we've never lost sight. Each time we have gotten distracted or thought an opportunity was better than what we had on hand, then one of us have kind of talked sense into the other of just, hey, let's slow down, stay steady, and do exactly what we're doing because it's still working. And I think, showing up every day, doing the research, analyzing the deals, um, whenever is probably what I could attribute most of our success to, and always be learning from others, especially those that have achieved something similar to what we're after. And right now, we found something that falls right in line with what we are doing at the moment, and we want to learn more about it. We know nothing about it, but I know it would be great for our business. So, since we've never done it, we have done our absolute best to kind of scroll through our networks, find somebody that has, and we now have a total of 4 meetings over the next 2 weeks with people that will likely be able to help us achieve like the next thing that we're gunning after. So I guess all this to say that persistency and the discipline of just staying focused is really probably the only thing that's actually standing in your way of achieving whatever it is that you want. And I can say over these past 4.5 years, I have never had one day that has stood out above any others. Of just like today is the day that I made progress, right? It was always like a very slow burn, and this is something similar that I experienced in weightlifting as well. Whenever I wanted to, be the strongest person ever, right? So like looking back on that, I competed in like bench press, and I can't point to any particular day that I got stronger, uh, and I can't point to any day where I actually felt like I was making progress. It all felt very mundane. Uh, everything. The progress was so gradual that internally I couldn't tell that I was actually making progress. And I think on this real estate thing, it has been exactly the same. So, I was on the phone with a good friend yesterday who pointed out the fact that he was like, wow, where you are now is a very long way from patrol. And that is pretty much in a nutshell exactly that. So, similarly, to bring it back to our project manager who had goals of getting one duplex over that was his 5-year plan, or the real estate portion of his 5-year plan, and now he's, I think, right at 11 units. So the snowball is very real, and once you sink your teeth into a goal and feverishly and very persistently hold yourself accountable to making or to taking some sort of action that in theory leads to progress, even though in the moment it's probably not going to feel like progress. And it's tough to realize how far you've actually come until you kind of look back at where you started and uh, kind of reflect on the distance between there and now. So still very surreal, extraordinarily grateful for everybody. It's not like I did this, any of it by myself. And I would say that a lot of people that get started, that want to set out to make a difference, that want to improve their position or whatever it is, there's this instinct, like this instinct, there's this innate desire, especially, I would say, especially in like younger guys, that I would say there's like this innate desire to like forge your own path, make your own way, kind of, do it all by yourself. And you know that if you just keep trying as hard as you can, you're going to get there someday. And I think um, that's a weak point. So again, I know some people who are like that, who don't want to look to others for guidance. They want to do it their own way, and they're not very far from where they started. However, one of the things that I said early on in this little rant is that my brother and I have a lot of people that gave us their time, imparted their wisdom into us, and that's one part. You can probably get somebody to do that in short order, like probably in a very small time frame. But the part that's more important than getting that wisdom is taking action on that. So all of the people that we had conversations with, all of the people that were so kind to give us wisdom that aligned with the goals that we were out to, that had similar character than that we wanted to exude, we owe it to them. We owe it to ourselves. If we truly believe that we want what we are after, then we owe it to all parties involved to actually take persistent action on those words of wisdom that were imparted in us. And I think, given enough time, if you do that, if you have that mindset, it's just a matter of time until you can achieve whatever it is that you set out to do. So that's my opening rant. Let's see if we have any questions. Good day, all. Morning, Ryan. Great reminder. Consistency makes a difference that we didn't notice until we look back and reflect on it. The Pink Charm. Welcome back, the Pink Charm. Happy you're here. Hey, A+. Good day. And morning, Tolu. Got 12 people on. This is exciting. Any questions that you might have, let's go ahead and get into it. Thanks for letting me go on that rant. Really excited about going from here to the closing table. So 35 properties currently is how many we have under contract, which again, in and of itself, 35 properties is, I know I said this last week, but the first 3 years that we were in business, we ended 2017 with 2 properties. We ended 2018 with 21 properties, and we ended 2019 with 38 properties. So we are right now, currently, we are 3 properties shy of having right now in 1 month our entire portfolio from the first 3 years under contract. So the snowball is real. exponential growth is a real thing, and it's really cool. And I'm really thankful, and I feel like blessed for the opportunity to be a good steward of all this stuff. So truly, I mean, let me put up this. Let me put up this email. I get some emails from time to time, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Because again, one of the main reasons for starting this channel is just to be a good sounding board for if you have any questions, concerns, or whatever you perceive to be getting in your way of taking the next steps, actually excelling in real estate investing. I just wanted to kind of make myself available for helping you get through those, blast past those hurdles. Let's see here. What else is on here? The Talk Real Estate Reddit. I actually updated all of the alerts so that I'm actually alerted when people post now. Other than that, go ahead and post the comments in the chat. We do have a mastermind group, seek-wisdom.com/join. That is the mastermind group. There's two groups, one that meets on Tuesday mornings at 7 a.m. and another that meets Monday afternoons right at noon. And the entire intention around those is just so that, you could be around like-minded guys that are headed in the same direction, that are encouraging, that want to, hold you accountable to everything that you said you were going to do, and just make sure that, we're all on the same path to success, and that we're all actively on a weekly basis checking in with each other to make sure that we're doing the exact things that we said that we would do. So I really enjoy it. Watching from Australia. Love the content. Thank you. I really like Australia. I'm new here. What financing approach do you use, or do you use a combination of financing types for your properties? So pretty much all of the financing. If it makes sense, then we try to do it. The things that we try to avoid on financing are large origination points, especially when you're in like the acquisition and rehab phase. So historically, you can either do the acquisitions or rehab in cash or using hard money. Most lenders do not want to put long-term debt on properties that are still in need of rehab for obvious reasons, right? Like they're not easy to sell. They're really distressed and they need a lot of love. So long-term financing is out on those. I guess the third way, cash, hard money. And then I like to differentiate between hard money and private money. So hard money is accompanied by origination fees, and generally a higher percentage rate. So let's say I think the hard money lender that's big here in the local area that I'm in, he charges 4 points origination and then 12% monthly interest only payments. So that 4% origination, if you take out a $100,000 loan, 4 points, that's $4,000. So just for him putting the deal together, he makes $4,000 off that. And then you have to pay 12% on a monthly basis. In the market that I'm in, where when I started, you could buy homes for $25,000, $30,000 all day long. That has changed, but that 4 points on a $30,000 home would be greater than 10% of the entire loan amount just for the origination. So we really shy away from high origination. Because of that, we placed a large emphasis from the beginning to use private money. Now, private money is money that you have found via friends or family members. It's secured via first position mortgages on the property, but because they're your friends and family member and you did the legwork of finding that money, then there's no origination fees. So you save that $4,000 each time you use that money. So for the most part, just speaking broadly, our business model is that we use private money, friends and family. We borrow their money at anywhere between 8 and 12% interest, depending on the deal. And we pay interest-only payments while we are rehabbing the property. As soon as we get a renter in, as soon as it's kind of stabilized, as soon as it's seasoned, each bank for long-term money has their own requirements for long-term seasoning. It could be anywhere between like 0 months, which is very uncommon. It's generally somewhere between 6 months and 18 months. And once we check all the boxes for the long-term banks, then all the properties that we have acquired throughout any one period of time, we will do a portfolio, kind of like a refinance. So across multiple properties, we'll refinance them in batches. So like this past time, we did 44 properties. We refinanced them all at one time. The total value of those were like 4.15 million, and that allowed us to pay off all of the private investors that we used. So they all had first position mortgages on the property. Now the bank came in and paid off all of those 44 private loans on all 44 of those properties. So now, kind of how that snowball is rolling is because now that we have paid those 44 off, then we have that private money now that people want to redeploy via first position mortgages for us, because they want their money to make the same percentage returns. So that allowed us to go out, put 35 properties under contract, and close on them here soon. So that's our strategy. That's mainly how we interact with the financing around our properties. So I hope that helps. Well, where's my prop stream drop? Lewis Porter Jr. in the house. All right. Yeah, guys, let's that's a great point, Lewis Porter Jr. Let's go ahead and get prop stream. Man, I don't have a banner on there. Good point. I'll pull that up. Let me go ahead and make that banner now. So I'm going to post an affiliate link in the comments, and I'm going to make a banner of it so I can put it on the chat. And it will get you a 7-day free trial to PropStream. PropStream really helps people increase their deal flow. It makes researching properties extraordinarily easy. I mean, it makes running your own comps on properties even easier. So I highly recommend it. It helps me do a lot of analysis. There we go. That's my affiliate link. And the reason that I use the Genius links, the genie.us links, is because, I mean, it just lets me know how many times people click it. That's all it does. It goes, there's a bigger link. It's just kind of like a shortcut link that I get to track. So that's why it looks that way. Let me go ahead and post that too. There you go. Lewis Porter Jr. Always having my back. Huge fan of PropStream. Yeah, so Nora, I hope that answers your question. Nora Stocks. $70 in equity on my main home. Do you think this is a good idea to use that money to do a BRRRR with acquiring another property? So what I would recommend, presuming that you mean 70,000 instead of $70. Yes, that's exactly what I would do. I would do a HELOC. A HELOC is a home equity line of credit. It's generally at a very low interest rate since it's secured by your personal home. Most banks figure that you're not you're not interested. You're not in the business of giving up your personal home. So they provide pretty low interest rates. And the cool things about lines of credit are you only pay interest when you have the money out. So it's kind of like a credit card that's secured by your house. And also, I mean, the initial payment, it's interest only payments each time when the money is out. So it's not like you have to pay down any principal. So the interest payment is very low. So it is perfect to do the buy and rehab and then rent out strategy. So that's what I would do, and I would do it via a home equity line of credit. I would not refinance your home and then pull that cash out. I would keep it tied to your house via a home equity line of credit. Generally, the fees to start one of those are pretty minimal, and then once it's up and running, you have the ability to do that. The only thing that I would make sure, and this is where like commercial lines of credit and home equity lines of credit are a little bit different. I don't have a home equity line of credit. I don't know much about them, other than the fact that they're a good tool to acquire and rehab properties. Since most acquisitions and rehabs, from the question I just answered from Nora Stocks, you have the options of cash hard money and private money, because most long-term lenders don't want to lend against distressed properties because it's just not good collateral. So when you use the home equity line of credit, you are, man, I took a weird turn there mentally to go back and explain that I forgot where I was going. I tried to segue that back very confidently, hoping that I was going to remember what I was about to say. I don't know much about them. Yes, I don't, except they're a good tool for that reason. But I will say that the lines of credit for the commercial side, they are considered short-term debt. Generally, commercial lines of credit are renewable on an annual basis. Now, home equity lines of credit are a different story. Not familiar, but from my understanding, there's like a long borrowing period, maybe like 10 years. And then after that, you have to start paying it down. So if that's the case, then now you have a 10-year window, whereas on the commercial side, you have one. So I guess I'm saying that 10 years is a form of like long-term debt, whereas the commercial line of credit is the short-term debt. So, back in '08, when a lot of the real estate investors got hit pretty hard, is because they had awesome commercial lines of credit that allowed them to acquire properties on credit. But it's all short-term debt because it's renewable on an annual basis. And during that last crisis, lines of credit are kind of one of those first things to go because it's short-term debt. So a lot of banks opted to not renew their line of credit, making those lines of credits all due immediately and must be paid in full. So if you are going to use short-term debt, like a commercial line of credit, then you just want to be really careful and make sure that you keep that money fairly liquid and that your turn time on this property is very low. Now, the turn time also has to include how long it's going to take you to refinance out of that. And in the event that the market turns, the banking regulations shift during the time that you utilize that line of credit until the time you're able to refinance that, then you may be in a little bit of trouble. However, on your home equity line of credit, if you truly have like a 10-year borrowing period, then that could encompass almost a full market cycle. So the risk there for it being called is a lot lower. So I would just check on the home equity line of credit side with the lender that you're going to use for that. Like, what is the borrowing period? Under what circumstances historically have they called? And you might have to find a more experienced banker that's been around for a while to figure out when HELOCs have ever been called. And I don't know over time, since it's secured by your home and the borrowing period is 10 years. So it's a great thing to do. And then obviously from there, you just want to make sure that you run your deal and you calculate the numbers via the Ingram rental calculator app very well, so that you know how much equity you're going to have in that. And ideally, you're going to be able to acquire and rehab a property in full, solely utilizing the line of credit, the home equity line of credit, that is that 70 grand. And then from there, you would be able to refinance, pay off the line of credit in full, and then go out and do it all over again. So I definitely think that is the way to go if you're trying to utilize the line of credit or the equity in your house. Now, that's if you want to be a real estate investor. What one of our investors does that loans to us on a first position mortgage basis is he had equity in his home. He took out a home equity line of credit at the time. I think it was like 4% is what he borrowed against, and then he lent the money to us. And he's just sitting there making the delta of that. So let's just say it's 10%, then he's paying 4% interest only, and we're giving him 10% on a monthly basis interest only. So he's able to, with the resources he already had at his disposal, money that he wasn't using because it was just sitting in his house, he's now making 6% on that. So that's really cool. That's another good thing to do with a home equity line of credit, is invest via promissory notes secured by first position mortgages. Man, we only have 2 minutes left if I were to actually hold true to that 30-minute time frame. Let's keep going a little bit longer, though. I think for sure the hard stop should be 9 a.m. Yeah. This is such a straight shooting show that with real answers to real questions. Thanks so much. All new people to real estate can learn so much. Thanks, Earl Johnson. It means the world to hear stuff like that. I really enjoy this channel, and occasionally I get some. I've been thinking a lot about this. I get a lot of enjoyment out of the show. So if you get some enjoyment out of the show, please just share it with a friend if you feel so inclined. But the YouTube, I'm a huge fan of YouTube. I'm happy for this platform. But like making videos, doing the research, like what it takes to grow a YouTube channel, uh, I don't know if I want to do that strategy. I've tried to get back in the rhythm of making regular videos, but I just kind of get off put by the thought of making a video and designing it in a way where it answers a question that I'm not really passionate about. So I'm passionate about, getting to meet people via this channel one-on-one, no fluff, not making, cutesy videos that catch people's attention that have little value in them. So if you're here and if you are watching this for any length of time or any of the channel, I hope you do get an immense amount of value. And please do not be hesitant to post your questions either here in the Friday morning live stream or on the Reddit, the subreddit group, the Talk Real Estate subreddit. Happy to help. Really want for everybody to have all the appropriate information they need to be successful in real estate. For a beginner, do you advise DIY from renting? Put the property after purchasing in management, paying a whole month rent to realtor to put up the house for rent. Just don't sit well with me. Yeah. I can see that. So I will say that when I first got into real estate investing, everything that I knew about real estate were from books written by people that were real estate investors. And all of the real estate investors seemed to advocate for using a property management company. I listened to hours upon hours upon hours of all things Bigger Pockets related. And I will say that pretty much the consensus there was to always use property management. And when I got to know local real estate investors, I felt like as people were building their own rental portfolios, as people were building their own rental portfolios, they were getting in their own way. So I found that people that were using property management companies could get past that 10 property mark more than the people that did everything themselves. I also found that the people that were doing everything themselves were a lot more stressed, a lot more worn out, and a lot more cynical than the people that used property management company. Now, the flip side is the people that were doing everything themselves were making substantially more money than the people that were utilizing property management or outsourcing everything. So I think there's a really fine balance. And I used a property management company because I was putting a exorbitant amount of energy and effort into my main business of like the insurance agency. So in my head, especially when there are a smaller number of properties, in my head, what I would say is at the time, I think we were paying like $80 per property per month, roughly, for managing our properties. So in my head, I was saying, well, I can make more than $80 per month with the brain space inside of my wheelhouse of running the insurance agency. So it makes more sense, kind of time value perspective, for me to push harder on the insurance side than be distracted by the real estate portfolio. And we used property management all the way up until we had 60 properties. And at that time, if we took everything in house, then we immediately saved about $5,000 per month from the management. So at that point, it made sense because now you could appropriately compensate either yourself or somebody else based on the management fees that you were spending. And we also just realized that we just didn't have as much control, or there wasn't any way that we could hold people accountable when things went wrong on the property management side. So whenever we got those monthly statements at the end of the month and they didn't line up, you could ask questions, but at the end of the day, they're a private business. You can't ask to see their books. You can see quotes. You can see those little internal invoices they draft up, right? But you don't know how much actually went to the contractor. Some of the work, it was tough to verify if it had actually been completed. and so much stuff was just outside of the hand, like our control. So I would say it's like most things in real estate investing, whether you use a property management company or whether you self manage, it's a personal decision that each side has an equal number of pros and cons. I would say if you are able to do your full time job, if you are in a salaried position, if you have autonomy nights and weekends, and you don't mind putting up with anything that might come along from a property management perspective, you're probably better off self managing. Knowing everything that I know now, I would likely self manage from the beginning. And I say that because technology in the property management space has come such a long way that I think even the smallest of real estate investors uh, could create and maintain a very professional, uh, kind of corporate interface that your residents can interact with the app, with the website, and handle everything that they need, from work orders to paying their rent. And you should probably, the old model of all of your residents having your personal cell phone number, calling you whenever anything went wrong. I mean, a lot of that eats into your free time really quickly. It doesn't have a structure. That's when you hear the horror stories about, tenants calling you at like midnight with a toilet issue. Like, all of that is not a industry problem as far as like managing rental properties go. It's a business systems problem because you haven't uh, defined a structure of which you won't have to deal with that. So if you streamline things in a manner where there's an app to interface, if you have a phone number, make it do a little bit of research on like the internet phone services, figure out how you can forward those 24 hours, 24/7 maintenance calls to somebody that is already in the business of handling those calls. And I think that would come out cheaper than paying that property management fee in order to do that. So technology has evolved in a manner where even with one or two properties, you could have like all of the tools of the professional management companies and save yourself a lot of time. The leasing piece, I agree with you. The first month's rent is pretty steep. We do not pay that anymore. The leasing, we actually kept using the same property manager for the leasing, even after we took property management in house, because I just mentally did not want to spend too much time regularly going to properties, showing them to people just for them not to be interested. So we used the management company for a while to lease, and then leasing was the last piece that we took in-house so far. There are a few other things that eventually we're going to take in-house too, so that we can just have it under one roof and apply some more effective systems. However, with the leasing, I would say one of the things that we do is we do not do any showings until you have applied and your application is approved. So one of the main things that I saw the property management companies do that I was not interested in is they were always running around to show properties to people. And a lot of them, once they applied, it was just revealed that they were never actually eligible. So people are apprehensive. We probably lose a decent amount of traffic because of this, and I'm sure we are turning away probably a lot of qualified people. However, we also kind of pride ourselves in having like an above average property. So we require that people fill out applications, get approved, and then only then can they schedule to see a property with us. Now, the things that we do to kind of prevent that from just being a time, energy, or effort suck from the potential resident is if they don't like the property, we give them their money back. If they don't like the property, we allow them to see all of the other vacancies and see if they like any of the other properties more. Now, we also process all of our applications in the order that they're received. So if we don't give the management or the application feedback, if we run the application and it turns out that they're not eligible. So on all of our listings, we lay out all of the things that we look for that make you eligible for us. And if they apply still after having read all those things, and then in the background check or in the credit report, we find one of those things was just not true, and they put the application in anyway, they're not refunded because we are charged a fee to run those services. So since we process them in the order, if somebody is approved and then there's still like 2 or 3 applications that came in after them and someone else is approved, then we do the same thing to those 2 or 3 people. We give them their money back. If they were only interested in that property, we allow them to look at any of the other vacancies that we may have, and that same application is good for any of the other properties we have too. And it's just the little things like that that allow you that if you did, you could do 90% of the legwork from a computer, and you would very seldom have to have like a conversation that like interrupts your day, interrupts your normal flow of things. And I guess all I'm saying is where we are now, technology is your friend. You can self-manage and you could be extraordinarily efficient. Now, the one thing that I would say to the people that are trying to implement all these systems with a very small portfolio of just 1 or 2 or less than 10, I would say you have to stand your grounds and lean on this technology. If you say no phone calls, don't let the residents get your personal phone, because it's always going to be easier to just call you, circumvent the systems that you put in place, and it would just allow everything to break down. And now you have these systems for no reason. So hold your ground if you're going to do it this way, because as soon as you start making exceptions, the entire system just kind of crumbles apart, because people are always going to undermine the system when they have the opportunity to. So as we built this, kind of the one thing that I kept in mind was phone calls are one of those things that interrupts the deep work. Like if you read Deep Work by Cal Newport, it's better for people to be able to work deeply on one thing without distractions and then move on to the next thing. Phone calls always interrupt that. And since we're trying to run with a really lean staff, we want to allow people to do like the deep work as much as possible. So because of that, we're kind of rebelling against phone calls. So I don't want anybody on my team to ever be available for random phone calls, because it completely disrupts the train of thought. It completely disrupts the workflow, and it causes, 10 things to be on someone's plate without any of them being resolved, because things just keep coming in. So if you can organize everything, if you can organize anything that could go wrong, best of your ability, it's possible to manage it like from your phone, from a computer, probably even while you're working, depending on what you do for a living. Awesome. Can you run us through the process you used when you were doing it yourself from rental to management? Hey, I think I accidentally just did that. Let me know if everything that I just said, if there was something else that you have. Yeah, I mean, the main thing that I did was just try to focus on being efficient the entire time. Utah homes appreciated 19% in the last year. I'm trying to decide whether to look for deals here in Utah or back in Ohio. Any thoughts on which makes more sense? I think analyzing deals for cash flow is always the better option, because in the event that the market's correct, sure, you have appreciation now, but in the event that the market corrects and goes down, you lose that appreciation and you still don't have the same levels of cash flow. Whereas when you are analyzing properties based on cash flow, regardless of what the value of the property does, you're going to be fine. The only thing that's going to negatively impact the cash flow, a property analyzed via cash flow, is if for some reason property taxes go way up, insurance goes way up, and insurance is one of those things that you can actually shop around because the free market exists and property taxes are not that way. You could sell your properties, I guess, if it makes your property's cash flow negative. And then if rents go down for some reason, which historically speaking, they don't do. The things that cause the rental rates to go down are not market corrections. It's things like big employers pulling out of the area, or something else happening, probably politically, that will make those rents go down. Otherwise, rents only go up. So I think it's good to balance. So I would say 80% of our portfolio is based on the cash flow basis. That's not true. I would say 90 to 95% is cash flow. No, see, I'm trying to compare parts of Ohio to places like Utah that appreciate 19%. That's not true. We have started attempting to we've oh my goodness. Here we go. Let me try this again. We have tried to start balancing our portfolio between the $30,000 to $50,000 properties that we have versus properties that are in the suburbs of Dayton that have school districts that a lot of people really want to be in. Dayton does not have a good school district. Dayton knows that, and they provide vouchers for like private schools if anybody wants to live in Dayton but not utilize the school system. So we started buying some properties in the suburbs that have good school districts. The cash flow is probably the rentals is probably closer to 1% properties, maybe just shy of 1%, instead of like the 2% that we try to hit when we're inside the city limits of Dayton. So for that reason, we try to balance it between those. So maybe we buy one suburb property for every 10 to 15 inner city properties that we buy, something like that. Just because we want to benefit from the appreciation, but we also want to stay true and hedge on the cash flow because it just seems more insulated from the economical or political pressures that may come about. Economic or political pressures that may come about. I just closed a deal on Monday from PropStream. 3-1 was worth 80.5 that I got for 69K. What kind of work did you have to do on that? That's awesome, man. Good work. If you're not familiar, you can use PropStream with this 7-day free trial. PropStream is probably the coolest real estate software out there as far as like deal flow goes. I am working hard. We are working internally to onboard a new software that I am so excited about telling you guys about. But I just want to make sure that I have a full grasp of it, that we have actually successfully implemented it, and that we really want to stand behind this as hard as I think I'm about to push it. But if this software is at all what I think it is, just like I said earlier, it is going to make even the smallest of property investors into one of the most efficient, kind of lean, mean fighting machines. Like this is gonna eliminate like hundreds of man hours on an annual basis from every real estate investor out there, and it's going to allow you to better monitor your properties. So really excited about it. All right, 10 more minutes. We got 20 people on. What you got? 70K. Sorry, did you miss something? Did I miss something? 70K. 70. Oh, okay. Yeah, you were just correcting me from back there. Cool. Thanks, Ryan. Thank you. I really appreciate you always giving your Friday positive vibes. This is tons of fun. There are issues, lots of little and one big issue, but I think it will be a huge cash flow machine for me. That's what I'm talking about. And you're going to get a lot of appreciation down there in Florida. My brother always tells me the latest Jacksonville stats, and I think last time there's like 100 people per day moving to Jacksonville. It's crazy. Maybe per month. 100 people is a lot, but I'm pretty sure he says per day. I listen to him. I listen to every word he says. All right. It's just icing on the cake when cash flow properties do appreciate. And we've experienced a lot of that lately. But the Midwest, as you're familiar, has been a depressed market for quite some time. So likely I don't expect the appreciation to continue forever on the cash flow properties. But right now it's nice. But you bought in a completely different, like one of the anomalies of the Midwest market. Columbus doesn't really follow the same guidelines or things that the rest of the Midwest does. Houston, I heard it was 200 people a day moving there. Yeah, but the people in Houston are moving there on an agenda. I don't know about Jacksonville. They probably have a little bit of an agenda too. But or hey, maybe it's just that the economies there are thriving so hard that they are demanding that influx of people. Regardless, I think Dayton is well on its way, man. I am holding out strong. You know, Dayton has all of the infrastructure left here from the Industrial Revolution or whatever. When we had a bunch of big players here that we let move out, uh, just mismanagement of municipal resources. But hey, the infrastructure's here. We have tons of office space downtown. We can do it. We can do it. It's just a matter of time before a few different key employers move in and take advantage of this centrally located municipality that has all of the existing infrastructure. So no new builds are needed. And we are starting to get a few cranes downtown. So that's exciting that the construction is starting back up. I personally, for one, am really looking forward to when the tide turns here enough to where where new builds make sense. Right now, it does not make sense to build a house because you can buy a house and rehab a house for way less than it costs to build one new. When you say Columbus is a different, any tips on finding deals in the competitive market? I feel like a little fish in a big pond full of sharks. You probably are. I mean, those hot markets, especially Columbus, Cincinnati, those, I don't really have any good advice. I think as far as the deal flow goes, I've mentioned it a few times, like having those 7 streams of deal flow and pushing those really hard. Like the more, it's all a numbers game. And I can't remember. I'm going to have to do some research because I don't remember like the actual conversion rate of most leads, but it's really low. It might be like, I know it's sub 1%. So if you think of it from that standpoint, if you only have 1 stream of deal flow, you get 100 leads in, one, maybe, best case scenario, one might pan out, right? Whereas if you have like 7 streams of deal flow, then and you put 100 in each, then simple math, 700. Now you might get 7 properties. So it's just about having a lot of different sources of deal flow and trying to regularly make sure that you get enough volume in as well. And I definitely think that it's a lot harder to kind of get a foothold on any one of these because I know for me, wholesalers are really dependent on me regularly purchasing stuff from them. The more I purchase from them, the more stuff they send me. So it's one of those things where if I turned away most wholesalers' deal, then I'm just going to work my way further and further down on their list. It's a real feast or famine type situation most of the time, I think. But hey, on that little diatribe I went on the beginning, it's all a matter of persistence. So just establishing those channels of deal flow and then regularly, interacting with them and trying to beef them up. I think that's the only real way that you could power through the deal flow. It's really hard, and everybody's out there, especially in competitive markets. When you say Columbus is a different from the Midwest, what is your rationale? Curious on your perspective and how Cincy fixes in the Midwest market. Yeah, I would put Columbus and Cincinnati in the same, and I would just say that the majority of the Midwest, with a few exceptions, are pretty well depressed. It's like if you look at Cleveland, the Cleveland market is really is really gaining momentum, but nonetheless, it's not a Columbus or Cincinnati. I think Columbus and Cincinnati are always going to like lead the pack, especially when you're talking about Ohio. They just have a lot of really thriving businesses there. I'm not too familiar with what all Cincinnati has going for it, but I know Columbus, I mean, Nationwide pretty much has taken over that entire town. And Nationwide is doing very well. And insurance companies in general always have an excess amount of capital to pour into the community, right? So they're just not really affected the same. Most of the Midwest, I would say, is depressed. I would not say that Columbus or Cincinnati is. I would say that they're both still very much so thriving. I think if you just go to the downtowns of all the places in Ohio, that'll become readily apparent. So because there is the demand for people to move there, people to live there, the housing market is affected appropriately, I would say. And I mean, Columbus took off first, I would say, just from memory. I think Columbus is a lot more established. And then, shortly thereafter, I think Cincinnati started really booming. And now Dayton and probably the other places are starting to catch a little bit of that too. Cleveland, I think the weather is just, and they were also really big into the auto side of things. So they're depressed just the same, probably similar to Dayton, just a lot larger. And I guess what I'm saying is kind of like how, like the stereotypical things that you think of when you're talking about like the Rust Belt. Oh, Procter and Gamble is in Cincinnati. That's one of the big things that's down there that it's got going for it. Procter and Gamble is massive. So it's just not like industrial revolution type economics. But the more I start saying on this, the less I actually know. So that's all I meant was everybody else is doing bad. Cincinnati and Columbus is still doing really well. I don't think they're nearly as dependent. I think they broke that dependency on the industry and on the auto industry. Like, Fuyao Glass came into the old GM plant here in Moraine, and they're doing okay, but it's still automotive related. It's still industry related. So I'm happy they're here. I'm happy that something is happening with that building, and I'm happy that jobs are being created here locally. But at the same time, it's not one of the hot industries at the moment. One of the staple, but not one of the hot ones. I'm just starting out. I haven't bought my first investment property. I'm going to try to wrap this up in 5 minutes. I really need to head out of here. Today is one of those days. I'm just starting out. I haven't bought my first investment property yet, but I've been watching all your videos. I'm in Texas, so all the homes are getting bought up above market value, even the rough ones. Hey, Tolu, Byron, Tolu's right there with you. Yeah. And I know I've said this before, since you're new. I don't know if you've watched any of the videos where I've stated this, but I would not be where I am now if I stayed in North Carolina. So I moved to Ohio in 2017. I tried to get involved in real estate investing in North Carolina before I moved. I looked really hard for rentals there, but I just couldn't swing it. Could not do it. So the point of entry was just too high. Long story short, I didn't move specifically to get involved in real estate. However, since I was interested mildly in getting started in real estate investing in North Carolina, when I moved up here and saw the lower house prices, I got really excited. And the point of entry was right in the wheelhouse of how much money I had to deploy. So it just worked out. But I guess what I'm saying is I know a couple people have moved from their higher priced markets to markets where they can get into with the amount of money that they have on hand, and they are all doing very well. It's a really big decision. I get that not everybody wants to move for job, family, a plethora of other reasons. But at the end of the day, we are mobile people. We all are capable of moving somewhere that has more opportunity. It's what a lot of people do. And I would heavily consider, if this is something that you really want to get into, moving. And I know from this YouTube channel, I met a guy who's now one of my really good friends. When we first met, he lived in Phoenix, Arizona, in a condo, and he was really trying hard to get involved in that market. He tried wholesaling, didn't really pan out. He tried to get some rentals. Long story short, for one reason or another, it didn't work out. His employer actually has some offices here in Ohio. He moved up here, and he bought a house for his family to live in, which was a fraction of the price of the condo that he lived in Arizona. And it's in a very nice neighborhood. And slowly but surely, he now has 3 rental properties, all inside the course of a year. He went from a condo in Phoenix, not able to buy rental properties, to now living in a very nice house and having 3 rental properties. So massive move. Didn't get a pay raise from his employer, right? He just moved to where the opportunity was, and 3 rental properties is a big deal. And I've often said on the channel that 10 properties is that number that you should definitely be reaching out for, striving for, because 10 rental properties is a life-changing number of rentals. So that's my thoughts on that. Diego Franco. That's a good name. Bought a house, going to fix it up a bit, get a cash out refi and rent it out. Got owner occupied loan, can't refi for 6 months. Should I wait till after appraisal for refi is done to rent, or don't matter? You should do exactly what the papers that you sign say. There's never any good advice that contradicts that. So you've got a good head on your shoulders. You did this. This is an awesome idea. You should do this as many times as your wife or family will put up with you doing it. But yeah, in the long scheme of things, waiting 6 months to rent your property out so that you can fulfill your obligations to the bank is in your favor. So don't try to rush things by 2 or 3 months, just to make a little bit more progress. It's all going to flesh out the same, and you don't want to upset, raise red flags, concerns, or any sort of doubt in the eyes of the people that are willing to give you loans. So definitely fulfill your promises, and it's all going to work out. You've got a good head on your shoulders. You're making the right thing. At this time, just be patient and rinse and repeat. Patience, rinse and repeat. Just be real persistent. Since he has 9 Fortune 500 companies that are opening their wallets, children's hospitals giving $25K in repairs to owner occupants to do exterior repairs in their area. They want to see nice things in their new $400 million tower they just completed. Yeah, man, absolutely. So Cincinnati, just for all those reasons that you just said, is way out of the scope of most places considering the Rust Belt. Ryan is in a different market. If you do the maths, you're able to get $200 in cash flow in Texas. Please go for it, or move out of Texas to invest. Yeah. Tolu and I analyzed the property last week via PropStream, and PropStream is an invaluable tool for sure. But the advice that I gave Tolu was not compatible with her market. Me advising to go in at like 150, which was like $15,000 lesser, or $22,000 lesser than the asking price. In this market, you can get away with it. We recently did a cash offer on a property listed for 65,000. We offered at 40, and they accepted it without even countering it. So 2 completely different things. Whereas, Tolu has pointed out multiple times that you cannot go in below asking in the Texas market, lest you be quickly forgotten. So quickly forgotten and promptly ignored. Yeah. Again, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about real estate investing. I'm a minute over, so I'm going to just finish this idea that this little thing that I wanted to say is, in every market, in every time period, there are real estate investors actively making money. So you have to be kind of willing to improvise, willing to pivot, change strategies at a moment's notice. My brother and I are constantly reevaluating our strategy for our market. But as far as it's one of the many reasons that you shouldn't pay people to take real estate courses, right? I know I've said that a lot of times, but everything that I know about real estate might not work where Tolu's at. So as far as strategies go, so there's not one blanket thing that you can say that is true across all real estate markets, except for the fact that looking at it over the next 30 or 40 year, like if you have your 30, 40 year goggles on, or that lens, that's how you're looking at it, it's likely going to get a lot better for you. So that's all I've got. I withdrew my offer of $180K after the Friday video, and someone else got the house. Uh-oh. Are you blaming that on me? Did I give bad advice? Someone else got the house. Did they get it for lesser than 180? The asking price was 172. I offered 100K. I felt it was too high, and someone else got it. Did they get it at 180? Do you know what they sold for yet? It's probably too soon to know. Probably won't know until afterwards. Yeah, Houston is crazy. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, hey, I sure do appreciate all of you. And next Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be right here. So, hey, in the meantime, if you have any questions and you weren't able to ask it on the live stream today, then hop on over to Reddit, go to the Talk Real Estate thread, and ask your questions there. And I'll be sure to answer those. All right. I will see you all next week.